All right, so hello, welcome. My name is Jesse Perez, Jesse P. You guys call me Jesse. This is the first episode of Wiretapped Truths. I'm a longtime Wire fan. I've been wanting to do a rewatch the Wire podcast. I know it's been done before. I'm just passionate about the wire, and I like the idea of it, doing it myself. From my point of view, I'm in a Facebook group. I reached out to a couple of people, and they said yes to doing the podcast with me. So yeah, my name is Jesse Perez, Jesse P, Jesse, and we're gonna this will be our first introduction episode. We're gonna start off with episode one, and we're gonna launch it out there for you guys. Hopefully, the feedback will be well, and then we'll plan on doing an episode or two a week, and get through the whole series like that. And hopefully, throughout the show, we get interviews from people on the wire and stuff like that. And if there's a female that could work with our hours, that could work with us, because it's hard enough already getting three people on the same schedule. If there's a female out there, we I would love like a female point of view and adding a fourth person to the show. So I'm Jesse, and I'll let the co-hosts introduce themselves.
Okay. Well, my name is Leland Edmond, a longtime Wire fan. It's been in my rotation nonstop for the last 15 years. Even when I watch new shows that are not crime dramas or stuff like that, The Wire pretty much has always stayed in rotation. It's never left. So just somebody that's passionate about the show, all the intricacies of the writing, how everything is connected. Just always been a big fan. So I'm just honored to be here with my co-host, and we hope to bring you all something special, different point of views that maybe you all have never thought about from The Wire, different plots in The Wire that maybe you never considered, and even a few holes in The Wire that you never even thought about. So we just want to offer a different perspective from three longtime Wire fans, maybe give you all just a different perspective of what's one of my favorite, if not my favorite show of all time.
All right, my name is Jack Simmons. Thank you guys for having me on this podcast. I wanted to do a Wired podcast for a long time. I think I've seen the show like 5 times or something, something crazy like that. I first watched it, I remember when I was like 17 years old and just kind of fell in love with it. It is the best show ever, and it's just worth a rewatch because there's always something that you miss the first time, and that's really what makes like a great television show, is that there's something you can look back on and say, oh yeah, I never really thought about that the first time I saw it. um so yeah, I'm really excited to be here.
All right, guys. So anybody, my favorite character is McNulty. Um, my top three is McNulty, D'Angelo, which is an unpopular opinion, and Omar. If you guys, I don't know, you guys want to give your top three?
Okay. My top three is probably in no order too. It's hard for me to order it. But probably Bunk, Stringer, just because of the real estate, the stuff outside of the drug game. I thought it was a phenomenal. He was just on a different level with the business stuff. And then probably McNulty, probably Bunk, Stringer, and McNulty. It's hard to leave out Omar, but those are probably my top three.
Don't look too much into Leland's real estate business now. uh, I love McNulty too. I guess I'm very similar to Jesse. He is my favorite television character because he's very flawed, just like human beings are, but he's ultimately a good person, and that point is kind of made throughout the show. It does, and that's kind of what I like about all of the characters, is that they're human beings. They have good things and they have bad things, but nobody's sort of like one dimensional. Everyone has a lot of aspects to their characters. I also love Omar. I mean, who doesn't love Omar? He's the most famous character in the show. He's endlessly quotable, endlessly memeable. He's the best, he's the coolest character ever written on a show. I'm gonna go on with an outside choice for my third one. I really love Frank Sabaka in season 2. There's just something about
Sure.
his passion and his just like his dedication to his union, and like you know, he kind of represents this forgotten industry in America, and feels like his jobs are being replaced. And that whole season is really prescient, especially today with AI taking over and everything. So I think that's like, you know, that's one of the great things about the show, is that like it becomes more relatable as time goes on with this country.
All right. I'm sorry. I was trying to figure out something here. So Jack, do you want to take us from the first episode? We're going to do a scene by scene breakdown of the
Yeah,
first episode, and Jack, you want to guide us on that and not be the narrator?
sure, absolutely. So season one, I'm sorry, episode one of season one, the first shot is you just see a corpse and blood on a street with police lights going off. You're very confused with a dead body, and then you see McNulty talking to this guy who called him about the death of Snot Boogie. And one thing I really love about this first scene is it really gets into who McNulty is as a character, and that he's as a cop, he's just talking to this guy. He doesn't interrogate him. He's not being condescending or aggressive or hostile or looking down on him. And that's kind of indicative of his whole character. That's what makes him such an effective a detective, is that he's able to empathize and understand these people, and he doesn't really see himself as above them in a way. He sees that just like them, just he's very flawed himself, and he realizes that they're just kind of on the opposite side of the same coin. And it's that ability to relate to these people and just kind of speak to them that's makes him able to get important information out of them. And then he tells them about Snot Boogie and the story behind that, which I have a whole interpretation of that story. But yeah, I definitely want to get your perspectives on that. You know, that first scene. I think it really kind of shows who he is as a character and whatnot.
Best introduction to a show ever. Started off with Snot Boogie dead on the corner, you know. So I was like, I know I told you guys I did a battle rap, and then one of my rhymes is like, you know, this is because I battled some guy named Adi Boom and stuff, and then he was like, and then so I was like, there's a difference between what Adi spits and what you spit, because and the guy I was battling was named Boogie Flames, so it kind of tied in.
Uh,
So I said, there's a difference
Okay.
between what Adi spits and what you spit, because what you spit is not what Adi spits is that hot boogie. What you spit is not boogie. I'm Jimmy McNulty introducing y'all to my first murder, Snot Boogie. And I got a nice little reaction. But you know, Snot Boogie was you know, he's always it's so funny how like a corpse could be like, so in the first episode could be like a stamp of the show, you know. So it started off with Snot Boogie. You talk about Snot Boogie, you know Jimmy McNulty. That's how we get introduced to Jimmy McNulty. Yeah, like Jack said, man. Jimmy McNulty shows that he's natural police, which is seems like the biggest honor you could get on the show. As we get more into it, the cops said natural police, right? That's what they. Um, and you know Jimmy. You know Jimmy. I like how Jimmy's getting the answers from him, like, yeah, didn't have to do this, you know. So, but in the midst of just getting the answers from him, he just is genuinely confused of like, wait, Snot Boogie robbed you guys every week, and but you kept letting him in, like, and like he drops the whole like trying to find out who did it, like. Why would you keep letting somebody in? Like he was just confused by the whole thing. I thought it was just a funny McNulty expression that we get, you
yeah.
know, which another you know, Jimmy, something that Dominic brings to the character so much, those facial expressions and genuine like looks of confusion and stuff that is just hysterical. Which I feel like The Wire, as much as it is a drama, it's a comedy also. There's definitely some comedic moments in there.
Oh yeah.
Personally, is what makes an all-time great show is, can you have different levels of, you know, just film and drama that are outside of what your show is known for? You know, like it's not just a drug show. There are moments of, politics. There are moments of humor. There are moments of emotional moments. Like when the kid is shot, like, how many shows are going to show a 8-year-old shot in his house, kind of thing. Like there are emotional moments in the show that kind of tug at the audience. I think that's another thing that separates it too, because there are some laugh out loud funny moments in the show. Like I'm sure for people who rewatch it or have watched it, when Omar gets shot or when Stringer gets shot, moments like that where it's like, man, I almost cried when that happened, kind of thing. So I definitely think that's what definitely sets it apart. But some of those funny moments are laugh out loud funny moments in The Wire for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's interesting, I rewatching it now. I never really thought about the story of like with Snot Boogie, right? He always robbed this card game, and they still let him play. And the guy famously says, "Well, you got to. This is America." And I thought, like, isn't that kind of like indicative of the whole show, right? Like, why do we let these politicians and these cops get away with corruption? Why do we let these criminals? Um, you know, commit crimes. Well, because it's like it's kind of an unfair system in an impoverished city. For a lot of people, that's the only way they can get ahead. Is
Right.
that in the American dream? It's sometimes you have to take shortcuts or you have to break laws in order to get your own piece of the pie, because that's America. That's what you do. Is you have to find your own way to get an advantage. And I thought like, it kind of summarizes kind of the whole philosophy behind that show.
And his
And
government name was Omar, and he was a robber. I don't know.
yeah, it's
And
interesting
that's a
too.
good catch the other day too, Jesse. As many times as I have seen this show, which is, we're not going to talk about that, how many times I've watched it over the last 15 years, but his name was Omar.
Yeah.
I never even put that together as many times as I've seen this show. Like I never even caught that just little connection to a epic character in the show. Like the Snot
Yeah.
Book name was Omar too. That's a hell of a catch.
So
Yeah.
we start off with Snot Boogie and introduction Snot Boogie and McNulty, and then Jack. What's the next scene?
Then theme song, famous theme song. We cut to McNulty recounting the story to Bunk when they're going into court, and McNulty's ahead of the game, right? He knows about each crime. So he talks. He asks the security guard at the court case. He's like, "Hey, which one has the D'Angelo Barksdale case? Which room is it?" And the guy doesn't know what he's talking about. And he's like, "You know what? I'm just gonna find out." And he goes into this court room, and it's not even his case. He's spending his free time going to court cases that he has nothing to do with. And then, we see Stringer and Weebay and Bird, and they have this like shadowy presence. And we see like, okay, those are the bad guys. We kind of get that sense right off the bat because they have this like intimidating presence to them.
And we see the witness point out D'Angelo, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you know what?
William
Just
Gant.
go off of what you just said, Jack. When to speak on McNulty, when McNulty and Bunk were walking in, Jesse pointed this out too. It was so seamless for McNulty to close the murder. Like he was telling Bunk, it's done. I gave him a grape soda and some Newports, and the murder case is done. So like for him, working homicides it comes really easy. It's like it doesn't even require much. It's like natural who he is. But like you just mentioned, yeah, on my free time, I'm gonna go into this courtroom and follow this case that I'm not even on, and just to see the verdict of it. Like that little small detail in him closing that homicide, which is what the normal police department, that's what they expect you to do. You're a homicide detective, you close homicides. He's like, yeah, that's nothing really to me. It comes easy. Let me go peek in here on this potential big wiretap case that this team and organization nobody can bring down on my free time. It's in that instance, like he already had bigger thoughts and bigger aspirations than, yeah, it's nothing for me to close a murder in Baltimore. I can do that with my eyes closed. So that's a good catch that you all put forth for sure.
I actually think you guys are wrong in the sense that he's just doing it on his free time and he's just watching, because McNulty's always planning, right? Like
True facts.
he knows something's gonna go wrong. He's friends with the judge.
Yeah.
McNulty sees this coming a mile away, right? He
Mhm.
knows the judge is gonna see him in the courtroom. Like,
Mm-hmm.
not I truly believe McNulty just had this master plan. Like, I'm gonna go in there, get seen by the judge. They go way back, and the judge and I'm gonna talk to the judge.
Mm-hmm.
But McNulty has to do it in this subtle way of, who, me? Oh, the judge wants to see me. Oh, what are you doing here in my court? He has to play dumb to make the judge believe that is the judge's idea, that
Mhm.
the thing on Avon Barksdale, because then he's like, he's almost happy that the case is falling apart. There's a little admiration he has, like, you know I think McNulty likes the whole, like, it's funny you said that in the first scene. It's like so easy to him. So now that McNulty's going against like a worthy opponent, like, you're like, oh, we got a game of chess going on here now, and when he walks in and Stringer draws "fuck you,
Yeah.
detective."
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Very well drawn picture. I
Yeah.
was like,
Sure.
pretty good.
Yeah, but maybe Stringer's taking art classes in that community.
That same community college. Yeah, no, and that's a good point that you said, because it's like throughout the show, that they're all playing the long game. They can
Mm-hmm.
predict 5 moves ahead, and he kind of knows it's going to fall apart once he sees Stringers in there, and he sees that, okay, they're doing this witness intimidation, and it shows the difference between him and Barlow, because Detective Barlow is the one who is working the case, right? And he's just like, for him, it's just a job, right? So he does the bare minimum. He says, I got 2 witnesses and a statement. It's not even, it's a done deal. When McNulty walks into his office, too, he's not doing police work. He's arguing with a repairman.
Yeah.
So
Right. Right.
it
Right.
shows like that's who he doesn't really give a shit. It's just a job for him, whereas McNulty, it's like his passion that he genuinely cares about. Um, and I also thought it was interesting about that scene too, when Judge Phelan, realized when they declared D'Angelo innocent,
Mm-hmm.
he's like clearly angry about it. And it's like judges are technically supposed to be impartial, right? But this guy's a former prosecutor. He realized like, no, this guy is an actual murderer. He doesn't want to see him get off.
Right.
So, all right. So then, this. So in the court case, also, the security lady, you know, Gant points out D'Angelo. The security lady goes on stand and goes, "No, I don't see no killer here. No, that's not the guy." And we get that she got intimidated by the Barksdale crew,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, I just love the casting. That's definitely a security lady. That's like, if you,
Yeah.
yeah, security. Um. So then, it's so then where what next scene is McNulty and the judge, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
They're talking, and also Stringer. One thing I liked about him when he says, when Barlow is like talking shit, he's like, "One day I'm gonna arrest you." He just says like, "Have a nice day," because Stringer is a smart guy. He knows, he's like, I already beat the case. I don't need to do anything. Like, this detective's just trying to overcompensate at this point. He's like, whatever, I already won, and that kind of shows like he's not like a typical shit talker. He's playing the long game ahead.
Yeah.
And then so yeah, Phelan talks to McNulty, and
Uh,
it shows.
we we forgot to mention D'Angelo gets found not guilty. It's
Yeah.
not.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. And then that's the first time we hear Stringer's name too when they're walking. When he said that to McNulty, he says, "Hey, come on, Stringer." When he leaves, so we kind of like, okay, so this must be Stringer. We don't know who he is technically, but it's the
Hmm.
first time we hear his name. It's like they say, "Okay, hey, Stringer, come on, let's get out of here." He says that after he, tells McNulty to have a good day, or tells Barlow, you have a good day.
Okay. So we got now we're in McNulty and the judge.
Yeah, and it's interesting. McNulty's the only one who knows about this case. Like, this is the first time the judge was exposed to these people. None of the detectives were working it at all. Jimmy's the only one who knows about it. Phelan goes back with McNulty. There's always like a mystery how they know each other, but yeah, so he discusses like, this is what's going on. We're too busy doing this bullshit rip and run community policing that's just there to fudge the numbers. so they haven't put any real manpower to the cases, and the judge is so annoyed that such blatant witness intimidation occurred in this courtroom that sets off the chain of reaction, which kind of just sets off the entire plot of the show. It's like that
Yeah.
one conversation just sets off the entire chain of events for the first season, really for the whole show.
Sure.
And that part is so weird to me too, right? Like, how is McNulty the only? I mean, I get it; he's the passionate cop, and but like, all right, in Jamaica Ave, right? They used to be a team called the Preem Team. You know,
Mhm.
Ken McGriff. You know, 50 rhymes about them and stuff. Um, if you ask Jamaica Ave police officers, did you hear the Preem Team? They know who the Preem Team is. You know,
Right.
like McNulty even says everybody on the West Side. So why don't other West Side police know of Avon? Like Avon Barksdale is just like this big goat. Like you would know of a Barksdale crew, and I think sometimes the show um tries to be like this character is McNulty is he's the one. He's the one, natural police. He knows about all this. But this is one of the moments that I told these guys I'm going to get killed for, where I'm going to criticize the greatest show ever. Um, that's not too realistic to me. That he's the only police officer to know about this, even if Barksdale's never even been seen.
Maybe.
Know the
And
name rings bells.
even though I think I see what you're saying, you're right. A lot of people didn't know about, I guess, Avon Barks. He's behind the scenes. And then if, like Jack said, if they're all cops who only care about their 9 to 5 and just the murders, maybe it's just, yeah, we got another murder. We don't need to know where it comes from or what's the reason, or if a big long investigation is even necessary. We just take the murders on as they come, one at a time. We don't care who they come from or what organization did it, as far as, maybe why the cops weren't so like, okay, how do we not know who Avon Barksdale is, kind of thing. So I
You
don't
know,
know.
I'm
Like
a,
they're so jaded.
I'm I'm gonna throw this out there. If you're like a former law enforcement or current law enforcement police officer and used to work, let me know. Let me know if I'm right on this or if it's possible for something like that.
Yeah. I
Uh,
think I see what Leland's saying too, where it's like they're so underfunded and jaded about their jobs that for them it's like they don't even bother to connect the dots really, where it's like it's less about Avon being such an effective criminal that he's able to go undercover and more just about like the incompetence of the entire police department.
Mhm.
I mean, it's a good point, Jesse. I don't know. We got to you know, it could be also Avon's so good at remaining behind the scenes, which is why one of the reasons he was so angry at D'Angelo for bringing attention in the first place.
Let me ask you all something too. I'm not sure of how familiar you all are with the Baltimore city and just some Baltimore politics outside the wire. There's a show called that's on HBO as well, called "We Own the City." I think I mentioned it in our group message.
it was
Um,
awesome. Yeah.
it shows, just this really, really corrupt police force. It was like 2016, 2015 they were operating. And if you watch that show, and if you're longtime fans of The Wire too, and you just watch them side by side, it'll really make you look at The Wire a little bit differently, because the city of Baltimore was portrayed so vividly in The Wire. You're like, is this real, or is this really how it is in Baltimore? And you watch We Own the City, and it confirms it. Like
Yeah.
the state was so corrupt. The city was so corrupt, from the mayor down to the police department. And like you said, underfunded. It's a real thing in terms of what we want to allocate money towards in terms of trying to make a change with our police department in Baltimore. I'm just speaking
Yeah.
solely about Baltimore. You know,
Mm.
that was something that was really interesting when I watched We Own the City, being a Wire fan. Like, wow, so the city of Baltimore was almost as true as it was portrayed in The Wire. Like,
Yeah.
it's rugged and it's really rough in terms of the economic structure out there, for sure.
And
Well, I
also the
know.
priorities too. I was gonna say the priorities of like they don't really care when poor people get shot. They're not gonna look into it. It's like, it's just like who gives a shit. So that's why for them it's like they weren't able to connect us. I'm sorry, Jesse. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, do you guys have like that kind of a wire area in your towns? I know here in Nassau County, it's Hempstead.
Yeah.
Hempstead and Terrace. I know Jack's heard of Hempstead. Terrace Avenue. Like
Yeah.
Hempstead is like a famous, like, if you're a crackhead, you're in Hempstead. You
Wow.
get your crack, yeah.
I think
And
that's the slogan for the town, actually. So
Damn.
if you're really out there, like in the morning, like if you're really out there, like in the morning and stuff, you'll see people like corner boys selling and stuff like that. Like, yeah.
Wow.
it's kind of similar to like just for Long Island, like why they didn't go after the Gilgo Beach killer, right? Because he was just murdering prostitutes, and it's like just to compare it to the show, it's like for these people they're poor, so the city doesn't really want to allocate resources to. But when like Clay Davis, a corrupt politician, does that. Remember, they allocate all of their resources towards one politician, whereas 20 people that were killed by the Stanfield crew, they don't really care about.
Yeah.
So it
So
definitely
what?
shows like the priorities of the department.
Okay, so we have McNulty and the
And
judge. They
such, yep.
talk. We get he tells them who Avon Barksdale is. What do we have next, Jack?
So next scene, we're introduced to three other great, of the main characters: Kima, uh, Greg's, Herc, and Carver. And
Great.
yeah, it really just again it really does a great job of showing who these are as
Mhm.
people, right?
Yeah.
Because they're investigating this guy who has guns, and Kima is doing things very carefully, very cautiously. She cares about the actual detective work. She doesn't care about having to prove anything or her manliness or any of that bullshit. She understands more. It's just about finding out information. Whereas Herc and Carver are all about that like macho, oh, I gotta fucking show these guys what to do. So that's why when he pulls them over, Herc and Carver like, take out their guns and tell them to get on the ground, and they take out one of the guns from the car. And Greg comes in from behind the scenes and says, there's two guns, and she's chastising them. And it just shows like the difference in mentality of those two styles of police,
Yeah.
which kind of also is what makes it unique, The Wire, amongst cop shows, because The Wire really shows that being a cop, a lot of the job is really boring. It's just waiting around, taking notes, doing very like just tedious hours after hours bullshit in order to find out the information. It's not just like chasing people and shooting them,
Yeah.
you know.
What did Bubba said? I don't see how y'all can do what y'all do all day and not want to get high.
Right,
Mhm.
exactly. Because just waiting around on rooftops, taking photos every night, and it shows like sometimes the cops even just fall asleep on the job because they're just so bored. So I thought that was like the first show to really show that aspect of police work as just something that's not fun and exciting. It's just like any other job.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's true. I wonder. Yeah, I think introductions are done great. I think that's a good explanation on explaining Kima, Greg's, and Herc. It's pretty self-explanatory, like you said. Greg's is the most serious one. Um, yeah, I was like that's pretty funny though, right? David Simon must have had a hard time pitching the show. Like, no, I want to show the paperwork also in the show.
Right.
Like, yeah, I guess. And they're like, what? So I guess that's pretty.
Yeah, like you want to show them writing notes and taking photos. It's like, yeah, trust me, it'll be good.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
What do we have after that?
And then what's it called? They're in the office, and again, Greg's is writing down information about the case, whereas Herc and Carver are just fucking around with each other, and it just shows that she's more of a serious cop than them.
Yeah.
And they even say they're like, we're not about that aspect. We're just about kicking ass, and taking names, and blah blah blah. Blah. And that's when Daniels comes in and realizes that he got a bunch of shit from the major. And like they even say shit rolls downhill, right? So the judge calls um the major and gives him shit about the case. And then he hassles Daniels about it, and so yeah, it's a whole effect. The judge basically created the whole case because he was unhappy with that aspect.
So something in this too, they show the old equipment that they're dealing with. The show was shot in 2002. They're dealing with stuff from like the 90s. So I was a 911 operator for Nassau County for a few months. The job didn't work out for me, but I could testify. The computers are like 10 years older than 10, 20 years, and you're like, why do we have these computers? Like,
Yeah.
doesn't the county care more about it, like the law enforcement? And it's just what it is. It's the budget, and you know they tell you don't talk about this in the outside world, but I'm no longer an operator. It didn't
Yep.
the job work out for me, so I could talk about it. But so when I was watching The Wire this time around, after having that 911 operator experience, I was kind of like, I was like, oh wow, that's true. We get old equipment like that.
Yeah, it definitely like well even they have that conversation where Greg's is like, I thought we were supposed to get a computer. Like that was like a big
That's
get,
what I
like
mean.
getting a computer. Where now it's like every sixth grader in the world has a computer. Like
Well,
it's
that's
so
what I.
different.
Well, yeah, it's definitely dated, but the windows and the programs they have now are like still like 10, 20 years behind. They're like not up to date.
Mhm.
They don't have the newer versions.
That
So
definitely makes sense because yeah, people had computers. They didn't have the budget. She was right. She was using a typewriter for that
Yeah,
scene. Yeah.
that's so throwback.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, the show's very dated.
Right. It says '02. It's probably shot 2000, maybe. Who knows? Released in
Mhm.
'02, but it's probably shot. Who
Well,
knows what?
so many things that we'll get into too, like
Yeah,
don't no camera phone, like half the stuff there wouldn't happen without the camera phones.
yeah,
One
that's true.
one specific scene. There's a scene with the newspaper. It'll be like, hey, did you check your phone this morning? Your text will be blowing up. You wouldn't get a call at the house like, hey, did you read the front page? So
And I'm glad you said that too, Jesse. Just another tie-in of just the long game, like you mentioned, Jack. He Bunk called him and said, "Did you see the paper?" And the witness story was in the paper. Season 5 is all about the newspaper. Like, so it's
Mhm.
just that little small little detail that just circles full circle from episode 1, episode 2 of the series. It's just different stuff like that. Is just it's stuff that I don't know. It just seems like everything was so well thought out with this show that it's almost like they could foresee the beginning all the way to the ending from episode 1. Like, I don't know. That's just my thoughts on that.
so
Yeah,
go ahead, Jack.
I was gonna say, yeah, it all connects, right? Because it's like the media connects to the political aspects, which connects to the police aspect, which then ties to the criminal underworld of it. So it's all connected, and they all have like their own operation, but it's all based on the information that they give each other.
You guys want to say it together? All the pieces, man.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's true.
uh,
we know.
all right, Jack. Next scene.
All right. So the next scene, um, we are well,
Jack, thank you for doing this. By the way, breaking down the scene by scene.
oh yeah, yeah. It shows how I kind of have it memorized, which is almost sad in a way.
And
uh,
man behind the scenes, Leland, who did a lot of work for us. Thank you.
yes, thank you, Leland.
I
You
think
really went above and
as
beyond.
fans here, I think we all are, here to kind of showcase our thoughts and our love for the show. And I appreciate you too for everything you all have done, just bringing us. We're on 3 different schedules, 3 different situations. Everybody trying to get on the same accord. So I just appreciate you two just being willing to work with everybody else in the group for sure.
So,
Yeah, of course.
next scene after Kima, Greg's, and Cartwell.
So what's it called? Well, then the next scene is we are introduced to Bubs and Johnny, and I love the way this scene is shot, right? Because it's all from like a handheld angle. It's really like gritty,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and there's so much ambiance or background noise of just the city. You hear sirens, you hear like cats and all people talking. It really just feels like you're there. It doesn't feel like a set, and you could tell they kind of shot that on location in Baltimore.
Yep.
And you see Bubs and Johnny, and they're like, um, they're using fake dollar bills that they printed out to get heroin, and just kind of shows like, yeah, this is what these guys
Bro.
do. Yeah, it's rough. And then the scene after with them talking um is Bubs and Johnny when they're in Bubs's house where he's just like it's a crack den and you see them getting high
Mm-hmm.
and just the acting in that was so real. You know what I mean? They're falling asleep, they're drooling, and then the camera pans out and you just see what this guy lives in. It's just like squalor. It's so bleak and sad. And
You know what, Jack? Let me touch on something that you said about just that scene alone. So I got a few questions. So one, where did Bubbles and Johnny go to print that money at? Okay, so they went to Kinko's or they went, Staples, or where they go to print that fake money at? Number one. Number two, his name is Bubbles. That's the only time in the whole series you see him actually drooling from and showing spit bubbles because he's so high. But it shows us, oh wow, that's why they call him Bubbles, because he gets so high, he passes out and he's blowing spit bubbles. But we never see it again in the show. Never. Only that one introduction scene after they're in the house and they're getting high and he's passing out. So
yeah, it's true. I never put that together. That's why their name is.
yeah.
Yeah, it's true. Where did he get? The only explanation I could think of is maybe he went to the library because the library is free for everyone. But like, I don't know. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it's true. He just
You
went
think
to H&R Block. Yeah, he probably doesn't have a library card, so I don't know. That's a good point. Where did he print those fake dollar bills from?
So I've known people that stud heroin and stuff, and they're like, and they say it's such a like hard drug to like recover from and stuff, and but that like you said, Jack, like they're living in squalor, but they couldn't be happier, Johnny and Bubbles, right? Like they're like, it looks like they're in their own paradise.
Yeah.
So it's
This is
just
like
like,
all they know too. Yeah, it's just like you know what? It's what they want. It's like this is what I want. I want to get high. That's like their own. And when they find it, it's like yeah. Well, that's that thing, right? I mean, when you do it, you feel that sense of euphoria. Like this is the perfect feeling right now. So they're doing everything they can to chase that feeling again.
yeah. So
Um.
yeah, so it was a good scene. I know Johnny was from the movie Kids, so that's when I like.
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up because I was like when I saw it, I was like, wait a second, isn't that like scumbag kid from Kids?
And
Just like
it's funny. He was probably one of the most recognizable characters at the time.
Mhm.
Now there's like A-list stars, that like.
Yeah, exactly. Like that show. With the casting, yeah, that movie is great. The character he plays is such an awful person in that movie. But yeah, there's no movie stars in the show, which I liked. I mean, now some of them like Idris Elba and Michael B. Jordan went on to be
Became
movie
movie stars.
stars, but it's good that it was like a very small cast of people that you've never heard of or had like bit roles and stuff like long ago. Especially Dominic West, because I think HBO's first choice was John C. Riley to play McNulty, and I'm a big John C. Riley fan, but I just I don't see it. David Simon saw Dominic West in this movie Rockstar with Mark Wahlberg, and just was like, "This is the guy I want." And I think it works because you don't want any. It wouldn't have worked if there was like a big movie star. It would have taken away from the realism in a way.
Sure. All right. So what do we have after Bubbles and Johnny get high?
So so what happened? Oh yeah, so we see D'Angelo in the car with Weebay, right? And he's like, "Yeah, man, that was some cool shit you pulled with the witness." And Weebay's like, "Never speak in the car." He's chastising him. And
Yeah.
then we go to the strip club. That's the first time we see Avon Barksdale, right?
Well, I like
And
that scene too, though, because Weebay makes him get out the car and say, "What are the rules?" No talk shop in the car. So that in a way introduce. They use them schooling D'Angelo to like tell us what the rules are, and I
Right.
like example there.
Yeah, they have like their own code, you know, it shows they're careful about this. The reason that they've been able to get away with this is they don't do stuff like talk in the car. They're very careful about how they go about their business.
Yeah.
So yeah, then we see in the strip club, we see Avon uh upstairs, you know, and he's like talking about kicking out some clients, you know, and that's kind of the first thing we see Avon, and D'Angelo comes in, everyone's like, "Hey, welcome back," you know. And then Avon basically, yeah, he chastises D'Angelo. He's like, "Don't ever do that again. That stuff costs time. It costs money." Um, you know, and it shows their relationship that he is his uncle. You know, it's not just like an employee employer relationship. He does see him. He's family, so he actually cares about him and doesn't want him to get in trouble.
Yep. It
Okay,
also
there's a few
go ahead,
things I love about this scene.
something
My
from
bad. Go ahead, Leland. Go ahead, Leland.
Oh, I was just gonna say in the introduction to Avon too, it just shows first his back is turned. It's like Stringer is talking to him and his back is turned, and then he comes in front of the camera. But it also shows like how powerful he was, because we can see, okay, we don't know exactly what Stringer is about yet, but we know he's somebody. But he's basically reporting to whoever this person is, which we know to be Avon. And then when it's time for D'Angelo to walk upstairs and come into the office, he doesn't say anything to stink him. He just looks at him to go like, "Hey, clear the room." Like it just shows, wow, every room that he steps in, he is a somebody. He's very powerful, you know. And even that little nugget right there of him not speaking but being so powerful. I just remember when he was in jail and he walked across the baseball field and everybody stopped the game. You know, he didn't have to say anything, you know, but it's like, hey, Avon's about to walk across this court, across this field. Let's stop playing baseball for a second and let him cross. It just shows like this is a very powerful individual without him saying much. Like he didn't have to say much to show his power and who he was, you know. So that was, I think that introduction from us to him is like, okay, well, this is clearly who's in charge, you know.
Yeah. Great points. You know, and the end, I love this scene because the introduction to Avon, like you said, you know, and String, you could tell he just doesn't like D'Angelo. You know, he just gives him like an evil eye. Like,
Yeah,
He hates him.
he just hates him. You know,
He
and he's
I
like,
think it's he's jealous too.
maybe you know,
He doesn't like have that
I mean that's
relationship.
up for discussion. You know, I think maybe he just doesn't think D'Angelo has what it takes to and you know, so you like you said, Avon gives Stinkum that eye and Stinkum leaves and stuff, but there's a couple things too, right? Like all he has to do is give Stinkum that eye. Stinkum gets up, knows his place, and leaves, right? Like D'Angelo's like, yeah, but that shit you pulled, like you could tell D has a little more comfortability with his uncle.
yeah.
Like yeah, this is the higher up, but this is my uncle. I'm gonna butt him. You know, you don't say butts to the to the top guy.
The boss, right.
Yeah, you know, but you could tell D'Angelo that's his uncle. Yeah, but you know that shit you pulled with the security lady, right? And you know, and
It was
then
the first Nepo baby.
that's what I said. I said D's a nepo baby, you know. So I was like, and then we would kind of have like Avon. I love the line when D'Angelo says, "You know how that is," and Avon's like, "I never been to jail and I don't plan on it." I love that. Like nope, I'm not no in and out scumbag. I run, you know, I'm not. I don't plan on going to prison. You know, I do this for a living. Like it's not for the and you know. And then when D'Angelo's leaving, he's like, "How you gonna leave without giving your uncle a hug?" I like that part, you know, because it shows us Avon's all about family, you know. So I like that.
It's also too, Avon is not mad. Obviously, he's a kingpin who orders these hits, these drug hits. I'm not mad that you killed him. I'm mad in front of all these people. Like, you know, that little nugget too is like, if you're gonna do it, right, you know, like
Yeah. Oh, so
Right,
it's a good thing you pointed that out too. Like, so we get what happened with D'Angelo. He got pretty much punked in the project building. It by like a in and out thug, and he had a gun on him, pulled it out, and killed him in the project lobby. You know, we get the story of like he was getting his ass kicked, and then he pulled out the
Yep.
gun. So
Mm-hmm.
And
Oh,
then
right.
Avon says like, "Hey, we
Yeah, he did say that. You're right. You're right.
yeah,
Avon's like, you're surrounded by all this muscle. Why did you need to do this in the first place?" And it's like he almost feels like this whole thing was just a pain in the ass for him. Like
Yeah.
it's just again, he's like, you made me call all these lawyers, you made me do all of this shit to get you out of jail. Like it really has like it's almost it takes away from the criminal aspect and just reminds you, yeah, they are family. And it would be like and even though he's his uncle, he's really it reminds me more of just like your dad, just like giving you shit because of all the things he's got to do to get you, out of trouble.
you know, it's kind of like Tony and Chrissy in The Sopranos, right?
Yeah, that's a great point.
I didn't think. I just thought about.
I don't know if you were on the call when Jesse and I were talking about D'Angelo the other day. I can't remember. It might have just been him and I. But it's like with D'Angelo, it's like we're introduced to him on trial for murder. He's a murderer. And for the rest of the show, we never get, until he's dead, we never get that aggression. We never get a sense of a gangster, if you will. And it's like for him, he killed somebody out of, and he was getting beat, obviously, and being disrespected. So he killed somebody out of being disrespected. But he never is willing to give respect either. Like uncle, he talks about, he's never willing to give the respect that he was wanting to. Like that was something I was thinking about when Jesse mentioned it the other day. Like we never really get, it's like the person in court and who D'Angelo turns out to be are two different people.
Two different people. I agree.
Yeah, I wonder if it's because like the person that he even explained, like D'Angelo said, like it was either me or him, right? It was like it was almost like self-defense. In
Yeah.
that case, it's like I don't really care if this guy's dead because he was going to kill me anyway. Whereas like later on with Johnny, it's like he's Johnny when he gets beat up, he's like this guy in his 20s. It's so sad and pathetic almost that he's like, why even do this?
Jesse said the same thing. He's like, well, why are you so upset about Johnny? You just want to trial for murder. Like,
Right.
what
Yeah.
understanding about, how this works kind of thing.
Well, I wonder how. I always wonder this. Do you think like D'Angelo's supposed to be like 18 years old or something like that?
In the show?
That's
Yeah.
a good question.
I don't know. That's a very good question. As far
I
as
wonder how D'Angelo is supposed to be.
that's a great question. I don't think he's 18 because Bodie was 16.
Right.
I always thought D was like 2021, but if he's supposed to be playing an 18-year-old, that's actually a pretty good
He's
question.
just like immature,
I've never thought
Well,
about
it makes
how
all the
old-
introduction questions a little more understandable.
Mhm.
Of why is D'Angelo getting introduced to the game at the same time as us?
Right. Good point. All
That's
right.
true.
Take us where we're going from here.
Oh yeah. So Bunk catches a murder, right? And McNulty goes and sees them, and Bunk's like, I really hope this isn't a murder. And then he goes back to his the office, right? And Landsman, you see Sergeant Landsman for the first time, and he's like, please tell me it's not a murder. And he says, yep. And he's like, fuck. And that's great because it shows like again, it's a different perspective on the police where it's like they don't even want, they're all about the clearance rate. For them, it's just like a pain in the ass. It's not like they want to solve crimes or they care about it. It's more just like for them, it's just like it's an image thing. They just don't want to have to deal with all of the paperwork and everything. It's just like anyone else that just doesn't want to be at their job, and it shows like it's just like a different perspective of how it's all shown. But then Landsman says, the major wants to speak to you, and you're like, oh fuck. And we see Rawls. The first time we see Rawls, he's looking out the window, and you just see him from the reflection of there, and he sees kind of all powerful, similar to Avon in that way.
He looks like somebody you do not want to cross in that first scene. It's like, oh wow, who is this? Who is this person? For sure. And he is heated at McNulty.
I love these are for you, McNulty. Love that.
This is going up your Irish ass, which is funny because he's also Irish, so it's like why.
Oh, good catch. Yeah.
But I always thought it was great because it shows the parallels, right? Because Avon's, you know, harshly criticizing D'Angelo, and then Rawls is doing the same thing to McNulty, and it shows, I that's one great thing about it is it always shows the parallels between the two worlds,
Yep.
and the same way, yeah, McNulty's getting shit because of what he had to do.
Yep.
And I even sympathize with Rawls. Like I get it because it's like if you find out one of your employees is talking behind your back, causing trouble, like I would be pissed off too.
Right.
It's
Right.
like I can't trust this guy.
Yeah. And that is a good
Oh,
catch too. That's something that in my notes over the years that I've looked to take note of is like when one world and one scene ends, how it transitions into the next scene, and then how parallel the scenes are. Because you're right. Right after Avon berates D'Angelo, we do get McNulty getting berated from Rawls. From his higher up. So that's a
Mhm.
great catch for sure.
And then yeah, Rawls and Avon are also just these powerful figures, and then yeah, oh yeah. So then after that, we see D'Angelo going to work, and again Stringer tells him like, "Nope, you're out of the towers." And you're right. There's a good point of how Stringer just hates D'Angelo because he says that with such glee, like
Hey,
he's happy to tell him that information.
he hates him, and I was telling Jesse this. It's like there are subtle instances in the show where it's like if you just look at some of the moments and then the events that came, maybe a season later, the moment when we're introduced to Avon and D'Angelo walks up there and he's up there with Stringer before Stringer leaves, Avon, he looks at D'Angelo with this look like you stupid piece of shit. Like, it's
Mhm.
and it just makes you think like, well, Stringer's also who had him killed at the end, so it's like he really disliked him
Yeah.
from the beginning. There was
He,
oh, I really don't like your nephew, Avon, kind of thing. He really
he,
was fond of him from introduction all the way up until he had him, eliminated in jail. So that's just a little signs, little moments where it's like, well, it was showcasing us and foreshadowing, like, okay, he really doesn't like him. You couldn't foreshadow, hey, he's gonna have him killed, but that is what ended up happening. So just when you catch little nuggets like that, it's like, man, they really some of this stuff is so well thought out and intricately put together. It just makes it makes you really appreciate the writing aspect of it. Just connecting all the dots is something this show does better than I don't know. Breaking Bad is up there too in terms of some of the nuggets that you might not catch unless somebody pointed it out to you, kind of thing. But it just does a great job at just connecting the worlds and just drawing parallels to different characters and stuff like that. So, where do we go from there, Jack? What's the
yeah,
next
yeah.
one?
Oh yeah, and I just wanted to add, like, not only does Stringer murder him, but then he also like has sex with his baby mom. Like, what the fuck, dude? It's just there's just no respect whatsoever.
And look, Jack, probably one of the most coldest scenes is when D'Angelo is dead and he's in bed with Brianna, D'Angelo's mom, consoling her. She's crying on his shoulder, and it's like, oh my
Cold
god,
blooded.
oh bloody can you be like? And there's a lot of people, honestly, that don't like Stringer. Like, there's a bunch of Wire fans that live and die by Stringer. Stringer was always right. But there are a lot of fans who cannot stand him, which is like an unpopular opinion for sure.
I always hated. I mean, like he's a great character, but he is like fucking evil. Like, cause he has Wallace killed. He's an innocent child who is just he without a thought in the world, just like yeah, kill this kid, and he sets up his friends. He really he's a great villain. And like I'm happy Idris Elba went on to have that career because he just nails that just like evil aspect of him.
He
But he's
is
also like an intellectual guy, which
he
made
is
him a
very
fascinating character.
highly intelligent. Okay. So
Uh,
what's next? What's next on the episode one?
so then he goes into the courtyard, right? He's been demoted.
Mm-hmm.
And you expect like, oh, who are these people that he's gonna be working with? and we are introduced to Bodie, Pooh, and Wallace,
Yep.
3 teenagers. That's what's great about is they're just kids, especially Wallace. He looks
Yeah.
so young.
Yeah.
He's like 14 or
He
something.
looks so young, and to think he's the biggest star from the show, the whole Wire. Like it's unbelievable. You never would have thought, oh yeah, Wallace would blossom to be, A-list, top notch Hollywood actor.
Yeah, I watched the show before Michael B. Jordan was like a movie star. And then I remember the first movie I saw him with was this one called Chronicle from way back in the
Yep.
day.
Yep.
And I was like, wait a second, that's Wallace. He's all grown up, you know. And now he's, in Sinners and everything else.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but it's so there's such an innocence to him too, which they explore later on. It's like he doesn't want to be part of this world. They're forced into it because that's
Yeah.
all they have. That's the only option they have is to be selling drugs.
Yeah. No father. A terrible alcoholic mother.
Mm,
She. We don't really, as fans, we only get to see her once, but she is. She's
she's
terrible.
awful.
She is terrible.
Maybe next to Naaman's mom is probably the worst mom on the show.
She's up
Uh,
there. No, she's up there. She's up there. She's a true alcoholic for sure.
yeah.
It's the real deal. Okay.
And okay, so then we see Uh, well, let's just because I'm not sure exactly what order they're in, but like with the projects, then you see Johnny um trying to buy. Oh, when they sell drugs, before that happens, Bodie says like you're gonna want to count that money because these people give fake dollar bills, and D'Angelo realizes just how incompetent this whole operation is, and he's
It's
like,
rough.
wait a second, you're not sending him around the back, like you're just having the guy who you're giving money to sell the drugs back. They could have gotten the whole case like that.
It shows I'm a level. I've been doing this a little bit longer than you all have. Kind of.
Mm.
This is how you're supposed to do it.
Yeah, he's kind of like he acts like a mentor figure to them,
Yep.
because he's like a few years older, and he shows them the way. And then like the next scene in the projects is when Johnny is goes with the fake money,
Yep.
and of course he's such like a fiend that he can't wait his turn to give the money to the guy. You know what I mean? He's just like, here's the money, and then it drops and he just runs away, and then they realize, wait a second, that's the guy who gave the last fake money, and they just beat the shit out of him, and
Yeah.
it's so sad because he's
Oh,
like begging and crying for these teenagers not to beat him up,
Yep.
and it happens in like broad daylight in a playground where everyone's just viewing them. It's very bleak, you know.
it
Let me.
bothered it bothered me that Wallace was part of this jumping. It didn't make sense to me. It didn't. Wallace is like this kid that we see get torn up a little bit later when with Brendan's death, and now he almost beats a guy to death. He's part of almost beating a guy to death, and I don't know. Just the character just doesn't match with me on the later shows, But I did like a couple of things leading up to it that we saw Wallace's intelligence of knowing Hamilton is not a president.
Yeah,
Um, Stuff like that was showed us that. But
it's true.
yeah,
Even D'Angelo didn't. He was like, "What are you talking about? Of course he was the president." It's like D'Angelo's older than him. He should know that. You know what I mean? But
right,
Wallace cares about school.
right. But so we kind of see that he I don't know. It was just he almost beats a guy half to death, and then we don't see that in the later episodes. So
Interesting. Yeah, it's a little inconsistent. I wonder, like, yeah, I wonder, like, maybe he just gets jaded. Like, he just is like fucking, you know, uh, feels like what are we doing here? But yeah, that's true. Like and it's like D'Angelo, on the other hand, is just realizes like this whole thing is pointless. Like, why are we beating up this guy?
yeah, yeah,
Why even like, what do you have to gain from beating this dude to death? He for like $5, he doesn't have any like thing to offer you, you know? It's really just to send a message to like people like you can't do that anymore.
sure.
Um
Um,
yeah.
It was a yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think D'Angelo was okay with just taking the money and being out, but you know, yeah, Leland, we were just saying how it was just I was a little confused by Wallace being part of like beating this guy half to death, and then later in the season, like we don't really see that side of Wallace anymore. You know.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think
um,
like
About it.
what are you saying?
I said he was so sad about the whole,
Brandon, yeah,
but they beat him almost half to
Oh yeah,
death. So they
yeah,
beat Johnny almost half to death. And I was telling Jesse this. He mentioned it the other day. It's kind of like if I wanted to, not look at it as a bad thing. It's like, well, maybe because they didn't kill him. Maybe that's why Wallace, was okay with it, and Brandon was dead, and then maybe
right.
they didn't poke Johnny's eye out, and
I
Brandon
think this is
hanging out,
Well, also
my
Wallace is responsible
opinion.
for it.
I think this is one of the times where it just slips through them on not the character development. So they're like just shooting direct, and they're like, oh yeah, yeah, all you guys jump him, you
Mhm.
know.
Maybe,
But
yeah.
Yeah.
but if there was like a more if I feel like if David Simon was on set, maybe he'll be like, I don't want Wallace to be in on this.
To be a part of it.
I just feel like that. I just feels like something that slipped through.
Well, also Wallace was directly responsible for Brandon's death.
That's
Like that's the thing.
oh Jesse that too. I said the same thing too. Like maybe that's why he felt
Sure, sure.
sure, right? We want him to reach. I guess
Mm. I like that aspect though. I didn't even pick up on that, Jesse. How it's like it is like he's just like so gleefully like beating the shit out of this
Yeah,
guy.
you know.
Um, and it's interesting because what I thought was interesting was how D'Angelo didn't even say like don't beat him up. He's just for him he's like it doesn't matter. It's like there's so much bigger fish to fry. He just got out of jail beating a murder. He's not trying to go back for you know what I mean for beating
True
up
enough.
some drug addict. And it's true how like they talk about like you got to be careful and they're not careful at all about this. It happens again in broad daylight where everyone can see this information.
Yeah,
But it's
So
just to send a message. Yeah.
that's a good point, Jay. I never thought about D'Angelo's thought process behind just walking away from it. He did just beat a murder, kind of.
Mm.
Granted, we do get to see later that his character, he's just, I'm not really for the violence.
I like the idea of D'Angelo being 18. That actually sits well with me if that's the case
That's
because
something to
some
think.
of the
I don't
some
know.
of the stuff don't add up to me. Like you're in the game, but you don't know that you have to count the money.
Mm.
Yeah, like
Well, also,
even
it's
just
like he's so confused about where just like any other 18-year-old, he's trying to figure out his life, and he's just to him, it's just he's just trying to figure things out and doesn't know which direction he wants to go, and so it's like he also feels like he has to prove himself. That's why I do feel like he's like a very young guy who's
The
trying to.
only thing where I think he might not be 18, when they sentenced him at the end of season one, they said that he was on parole from the previous drug conventions in 99.
Hmm.
mm,
That was the case. If it was 99 and those were his,
and he would have been 15. Yeah.
yeah, he might be a little older than
Like
maybe
21 or something. Yeah.
something like that. Yeah, that's the only I was thinking about it, and I was like, could he be 18? But she said that he had already been convicted twice in 99. So that
Mm.
he definitely probably wasn't 18. I mean, he'd have been 15 when that happened. So
Yeah.
he's probably a little older than 18.
Yeah.
What
But
do
it
we
does.
have? Oh, I'm sorry.
No, no, no. It does make sense that he's like a young guy because, like, yeah, he's like he doesn't really understand the game as well as other people, and he's just trying to like figure things out like that.
He's trying to find his own way, pretty much.
Right, exactly. And then okay, so then moving forward, we go to um the office where the detail is happening, right? We go back to the police station. One thing I liked, I noticed about it is it shows the contrast because it shows a lot of like establishing shots of these buildings, and they're all very like skyscrapers. They have this like regal look to it. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? Just showing like the difference between the two worlds. And then so Daniels is basically like, I'm setting up this detail, and we see all the people that are involved, and he's like, this is what we're gonna do. We're just doing like a quick rip and run. Because that's what Burrell told him, the
Mm-hmm.
deputy commissioner is like, I just want quick in and out, no bullshit. And Daniels, being a career man, is like, okay, and it shows like, even though he's a good police man, he's like, he also genuinely cares about doing the right thing. He cares a lot also about ambition and being on the short list for promotion, and shows that like the political aspect of policing gets in the way of doing the job, because it's not, you don't want to piss off any of the higher ups. You want to be, he wants to be a good soldier so that he can eventually become commissioner.
Mm-hmm.
And McNulty is like, well, this is not going to work,
Yeah.
And he directly just challenges him. That's one thing I like about his character. He's not afraid of just being an asshole. Like, he
Right.
doesn't, he doesn't consider anyone else like how they perceive him. He's just like, this is, he just speaks his mind all the time.
Well,
Yep.
McNulty hates authority, right? It's fuck the bosses.
Fuck the bosses. Yeah, that's like, he keeps going back to that. And it's kind of, again, it's just like, it kind of, what makes him so effective is that he doesn't care about the politics or being liked by any of these other, because everyone else is like rolling their eyes at him.
Mm-hmm.
And he shows them like, what do we have on this guy? And Greg's is like, we don't have a picture of him or a name.
Any
And
date of birth.
yeah, that's one thing that would be different today, because nowadays everyone has information about everyone all the time, right? So it's like, there's no way we wouldn't, now if the show is filmed today, there wouldn't be any way we wouldn't have a photo of Avon
Yeah.
Barksdale.
Right, for sure. Nah, for sure. You said that. That's for sure.
What do we have next?
So going forward, we have McNulty and Bunk, their first time we see them drinking together. And McNulty's like, this is a bullshit case that they're giving me, or like, it's not a bullshit case, but like, they clearly don't care about it. He's complaining. He quotes the bridge on the River Clyde for the
Oh,
first time we see him. What
Oh,
the fuck did I do? And one thing I always wanted to get your perspective, because they never explain it, but Bunk says like, be careful of Daniels. And we find out like later on in the show that he was like involved with some dirt.
yeah. I don't
They
think
never.
that. Mm-mm. I think he was.
Um,
He's a company man,
yeah, I don't think
and
Bunk knew it.
be careful. He's gonna put, what he's got going on and his aspirations in terms of how he's gonna handle this case in front of kind of protecting you, and kind of he'll cross you to save his own. I think it's more so what Bunk was saying, because he's a company man and he's up for promotion. So
Because
he
yeah.
and the guy who told McNulty about that he was involved in some dirt is a higher up. He was
hmm
he
he's
was the guy.
FBI.
Okay.
He was
Yeah, I'm
FBI.
mistaking it for another scene.
Yeah,
So
FBI. So
But yeah, he tells him like, "Hey, be careful of this guy. He's cares about himself." And then, the next time we see them, it's like 3 in the morning. They're at the railroad, and they're hammered by this point. Um, and he pees on
the track, yeah.
the railroad as the train is coming towards him. Gets out of the way just in time, and shows again, it's like visual storytelling, like a metaphor for like, this is what the guy is. He's not afraid to run into trouble.
nope.
Yeah.
He puts himself at risk because he's just
I'll play
reckless.
to the edge, if need to. Like, that's definitely a metaphor for McNulty, him hopping off those train tracks right when that train was
And
coming.
you could see even Bunk got a little scared. He's like, Jimmy,
He like,
yeah, Jimmy, what are
get
you
your
doing?
self off the train tracks before the train is coming. Like, yeah.
Yeah, he's reckless in that regards, and even says like, "Come on, let me drive you home." Like, he's just driving hammered. That's what's funny. They're not even like a little bit buzzed
No,
driving. They're just completely shit faced
and,
driving
and
their car.
and it's pretty realistic too. Cops
Yeah.
are known to get behind the
Yeah,
wheel.
because who's
Well,
gonna arrest them, right? They're
I
not
don't
gonna.
know. I don't know as much nowadays, but definitely back in the day,
Mm.
definitely.
So then, okay, so we see Bubs at the university hospital.
Mhm.
Um, where Brandon's just completely stitched up. in a cast, and this is like we see the human aspect of Bubbles, you know.
Johnny, we see Johnny in the cast.
Oh yeah, sorry, I meant Johnny in the cast. You see Bubbles like the human aspect. He's clearly depressed, and Kima comes up to him and shows like she genuinely cares about the
Right.
guy. You know, this is her CI, but like, you know, they have a friendly relationship to each other, and that
Yeah.
sets off his motivation to take down the Barksdale crew.
Great job by Andre Royo, you know, and yeah, then he says, I got something for you.
Mhm.
And you know, we're left onto the next episode, but we know it's gonna be like, hey, this is gonna be Kima's realization that the Barksdale that Jimmy's been pushing is true.
Mhm.
Because
Right.
Bubbles is gonna be like, I got something for you, and he's gonna say Barksdale. So you know, this is when the case, you could say case is going in. Um,
Yeah, you
10 out
see
of 10,
Kima realize.
and
Yeah.
and then this is the last end of the episode, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So
What-
yeah, McNulty's like, I'm gonna do this case. This, like you said, it's the first time Kima sees like the real barbaric nature of these people, because she sees this guy completely destroyed in the hospital, and the last scene of the episode is
Oh, I
great.
thought that was the last scene. I'm
Well, the
sorry.
last scene was D'Angelo
Oh,
seeing that there's a murder.
yeah.
All these cops around. He's like, wait a second, and then uh the body comes over. I think Bunk is the one who walks up. He's a detective called to it,
Yep.
and they see and it's great again, visual story, because the visual storytelling, because the police pull over the guy, and you see
Right.
D'Angelo sees his face, and then they cut to black and white, and he says, "Wait a second, that was the guy that pointed me out," and
Yeah.
he has that feeling of guilt
Mhm.
completely wash over him, and he just walks away completely like, what the like again, what the fuck did I do? And that's how it ends, and it's very like, oh shit, it ends on a
Yeah.
very dark note, which is
Yeah.
like really daring for the first episode. You know, it doesn't have like a happy ending. It ends on a really like kind of like a fucked up scene.
But if you've
Probably the
ever
probably,
seen The Wire, that episode and ending like that, for sure would make you be like, oh, well, I have to see what happened. I got to see
Mhm.
what happened in this next episode. Like,
a little bit. I've introduced a few people from The Wire, and it usually takes to episode 3 or 4 when they're
really,
completely, you know. But I think great first episode, 10 out of 10.
for sure.
Yeah, Leland Bridge ends on a cliffhanger where you're just like, and it sets the tone of like, oh god, it doesn't pull any punches.
Standout acting by Dominic West, Andre Royo, Wood Harris, Larry Gillard. Those are the ones that stood out to me, which
Wendell
were
Pierce. Yeah.
Wendell Pierce. For this episode, those are the guys who stood out to me. Um, you
I
know,
think for me,
great first episode, and the case is going in, and yeah.
I
So
think for me, that first episode, just looking at how good the show does at just introducing characters and their
yeah,
personalities. Like initially, like the initial introduction is also going to come with a piece of what you might be able to expect from this character. You know, it does a really good job at that. And just going to like later seasons, like even like when Marlowe's introduced, he's like, yeah, hey, kill him or don't, but I gotta be somewhere. Like
right.
it's just little stuff like that where it's like they're introducing us to these characters, but they're also giving you like just subtle glimpses into what to you might be able to expect coming soon, you know, from the character. I love it. I love that part of the show every time I rewatch it. Just how they introduce the characters and what they in the events that end up happening to some of them. Kind of, you know, it's kind of showcased in their introductions. You can kind of
Yeah.
see who the character is for sure.
It's more of a character study show, you know.
For sure, it's a great way to kind of compare it, like to analyze it. It's a great character arc show. And I realized this yesterday when I was working on some stuff last night. Other than season 4, the show is based around McNulty.
McNulty. Yeah.
Like,
Well,
other
and
than
Oh
I
4,
think
yeah.
I think the yeah, and season 4 is the only time it's not. I think the only argument to that was David Simon says that Baltimore is the main character.
right?
There's
And
no specific
great.
main character.
definitely a great way to look at it.
But
Yeah.
I agree with you. Seasons 1 through 3 is McNulty's got to be the main character.
He is.
Yeah.
And then the fifth season, it's all about
So
McNulty.
McNulty, yeah.
So
So I think fourth was just leading up to McNulty. You know what I mean? You know.
yeah. And I
Yeah,
think
it's even though it's ensemble, he's definitely the main guy.
I think that fourth season of The Wire, which is I think the most critically acclaimed, if I'm not mistaken, is the season 4 with the kids, not having McNulty as that centerpiece, but also showcasing the political aspect of it, and then having the kids lead the season.
Sure.
It kind of why a lot of people deem it as their favorite season. It is a little different than
I've actually heard it as I've heard it 2 ways. I've heard it as the favorite, and I heard it as I didn't like this season that
Yep.
much.
I have too. I heard it both ways too. And honestly, I don't. I'm somebody that looks at it like, well, I think every scene
I think every season is
of every season,
yeah.
Same.
and I'm a big Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul fan. Like I love those shows too.
I love Better Call Saul. Yeah,
But
Better Call Saul is better than Breaking Bad.
it's like, okay,
I
I feel
agree.
like some of these scenes maybe I could do without, kind of thing. I kind of get that from a little bit from both, and I love both shows. But like, there's not one scene in The Wire where I feel like doesn't serve a purpose later, like kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. You got to pay close attention.
Yeah.
So I think we're I mean, I'm. You guys want to give the outros? We've been going for an hour and 15 minutes.
Yep, sure. I
It'll
would
be
say great job, Jack, going and giving our breakdown. And I'm not sure if you did it off of memory or if you got notes, but either way,
Little both.
phenomenal breakdown. Great breakdown. We
Yeah,
definitely.
great breakdown, Jack. If you could continue to do that for us, it'll be
Yep.
much appreciated.
You got it.
Love it. I would kind of, as we kind of put our podcast out there and have people that big fans that are interested in stuff, we're going to touch on a lot of stuff that maybe you all as fans have not thought about, maybe have not considered, and any suggestions that you all might want us to talk about, or we'll be active on social media in some of these groups. You all feel free to message us or reach out to us. Please feel free to like, share, subscribe. It's Wiretapped Truths. That's the name of our pod and our channel, and we definitely want to bring as many people that love the Wire like we do into the pod. Share some comments. I'll be reading all of the comments for suggestions on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram. We'll have somebody that will view all of the comments and all of the suggestions. So you all fans that see this, please feel free to connect with us, comment your suggestions, and as we're planning out next week's pod or the next episode, we'll definitely take into consideration any suggestions you all might want us to talk about for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, once this is edited, we're gonna share the shit out of it on all the platforms, and yeah, I think we all got our good thoughts on it. I think this is like a good amount of time too. Like it's not too long, it's not too short. It gives us enough time to really get our thoughts out. So thank you guys for doing this. Thank you to everyone listening, and I can't wait for the next episode.
All right, Wiretap Truths, episode 1 in the books. You have a good one.
See ya.